Man, it has been a long time and I am so happy to be back. So let's knock 3 times and let's get this started. Hey guys, it's Z, back with another episode of Zervent Freemasonry today, and I'm here to talk to you about a conversation that I've had recently with a brother, and I thought it was a really good conversation. I wanted to make sure that I kind of got this out so that anyone else in the same situation can understand kind of why I told him what I had told him. And it's based off the idea of an investigating committee, right? As the worshipful master of my lodge, I can tell you that there, other than your Masonic voting while in lodge, there's no greater responsibility that I can hand to you as a worshipful master than being on an investigation committee. That committee, for the most part, as a worshipful master, I can tell you, is hand-selected for various reasons. Now, some of those reasons may be something very simple. Perhaps I have a brother that is not able to attend lodge on the regular. He's, always working that evening shift or whatever, and this is one of the only ways that he can give back. Well, hey, great. Let me keep you involved in Masonry so that if eventually you get off that shift, you still feel connected to the lodge, right? You know the people who are coming in. Perhaps I have a brand new Master Mason who's never been on an investigation committee before, and I want to get his thoughts on it. Maybe I'm trying to help guide him maybe to wanting to become an officer, maybe eventually ascend to the East, maybe just to give him a sense of how the bureaucracy of a Masonic lodge works. It's a very important piece of information. However, there are some other reasons why I may be assigning very specific members. For instance, my potential candidate has a history and a background with him. I'm going to try to match up a couple of guys on that investigation committee that have kind of similar, those same experiences. For instance, I'm a teacher. If I were to be investigated right now, and I was a worshipful master, I would send another teacher along on that investigation committee. Or if I'm a business owner and I'm petitioning, I'd try to send a business owner, or anything else along those lines, right? If I have a clergy member, maybe I try to send another clergy member. Now, there are two major reasons why I try to make that happen. First and foremost, I want that potential candidate to know that there are men in our lodge that have the same experiences as him. Now, we know that Freemasonry is going to provide a common bond through similar experiences, and that's how we build a brotherhood. But if we already have some of those experiences, I want them to feel comfortable with the men that they're joining with. For instance, I'm a veteran, right? So it would be a great idea to send a veteran on that investigation committee, because the way that we talk as veterans is going to be different than the way that I talk with someone who's a veteran and someone who's a civilian, for instance. Our sense of humor is different. Our mentalities are completely different. And excuse me. And if I have a brother that's coming to my house to investigate me, and I hear him use that kind of language, or that sense of humor, or that kind of mindset, it puts me at ease, right? That's the guy that I want to be with, because we're going to have shared interests, right? Now, the other reason why I specifically choose Masons to go on that investigation committee with those shared experiences is so that I can have them report back to me if there's anything kind of wonky, right? Let's take, for instance, the fact that I'm a veteran, right? If I take and I put another veteran on that investigation committee and I start saying such things as like, well, I was in the band, but I earned my Medal of Honor, and I go, wait a minute, kind of like that stolen valor thing, right? I can see the wool being pulled over my eyes, and that's going to be a big indicator as to whether or not that brother should belong to us. I'm a teacher, so for instance, if this guy says, hey, I'm a teacher, and I work at 7 different schools throughout the week, and I go, that doesn't really make sense, or explain that to me some more, right? And if it's really the truth, maybe I'm a music teacher, right? We're roving teachers. Perhaps there are 7 schools that he's working at, and he goes through and he explains today, and I go, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? But only a person in that situation or with those experiences are able to understand it, where it could be very easily thought of as not necessarily the truth. But you have someone on their side going, no, that's the truth, right? So it puts you at ease as a candidate. And when you report back to the lodge, it puts me at ease as the worshipful master, because I've just assigned 3 people with similar interests And because they have similar interests, I know that they can see whether or not the wool's being pulled over their eyes and whether or not, this guy is really a good fit. Now, one of the couple of other things that I'd like to talk about real quick with the investigation committee is how are we conducting our investigation committee? Not only are we supposed to be sending those 3 guys typically to do the investigation committee, and you should probably try as best as you can by knowing your Masons as a worshipful master to align Masons that have similar experiences to set at ease the potential candidate, plus also to report back accurately to the lodge. But I got to ask you guys, in your lodge, are you doing such things as calling the references, or is that just kind of something they fill out, right? Now, I have a hard time with references because I feel a lot of times that when someone calls and says, hey, here's a reference, it can be kind of, you're not sure if what you say is going to get back to that potential candidate, right? So I think a lot of us normally default to being a bit nicer or maybe overly complimentary of that person because we are referenced, because we don't want to get back to the candidate that maybe we said something like, I'm not sure, right? The best thing that we can do is when a guy says, hey, and this happens to me all the time, so I know it does occur, these 4 references, do they have to be Masons? No. Might not be a bad idea, because at least then, hopefully, if the guy's a Mason, I can give him a call and go, hey, brother to brother and on the square, I need to know, would you want him in your lodge, right? Do you feel that his actions are consistent with every maxim that we teach, right? Do we feel, or would you be supportive of him coming in? Now, if that's a true brother and we know he's a true brother and he says, absolutely, then I go, great, no questions asked. You're a brother, I trust you. Or, you say, hey, we're on the square, and remember that this doesn't get back to anyone other than just me, and I'll just write on the report. And he goes, maybe he's not a good candidate right now, or maybe he's just not a good candidate. I told him he could use me as a reference, but I really don't feel. And he goes, great, thanks very much. And we know that that's not going to get back to the candidate. But obviously not a requirement. But if you're handing out petitions, hey, try to get a guy, when he says, do these all have to be Masons? You go, no, but if you know one, might not be a bad idea. So you kind of have that built-in kind of, I don't know, that kind of stoolie, I guess. I don't know. The other thing that I'm especially now, right? I've come into this, and I was talking to a brother about this yesterday. God, are you guys checking their social media? That can avoid so many problems in the big picture, right? So I'm 42, I think. And, anyone that's between the ages of let's say 35 and onward, right? You should be checking their Facebook, right? It's just a part of life. It's social media. I hate it all, but it's a really good resource to see what guys are saying when they don't think people are maybe listening or watching or researching what they're saying, right? You don't go back, 2 months. You go back 6 months, 8 months. 12 months, right? Are they making comments on there that you go, that's not aligned with Freemasonry? Recently, I actually went to Facebook and saw a guy have some stuff on his post, and I was like, man, I'm gonna need to give this guy a call because it's not giving me an absolutely best feeling ever. Now, when I talk to him, we'll see if everything is kind of the way it goes, and whether or not it was just one of those, I'm just in a rage and I wrote something and I didn't think about it, or, do we see a clear and consistent pattern of comments, remarks, photos, anything along those lines that would not make them a good Mason? Check their Twitter accounts if they have one. See if they have an Instagram. Obviously, Snapchat's not really. See if they have a TikTok, right? Ask them those questions so that when we're doing the research, we can get that full understanding. Again, and I know that this is the case for us here, the moment that someone contacts me before I even send an investigation committee is I check the case search, right? I put their name in our state's case search, and I see whether or not they have any cases against them. And if they do, what are the cases, right? You got a speeding ticket. Okay, no big deal. You got a speeding ticket doing 80 and a 35 in a school zone. Ooh, that's a problem, right? Or you owe 5 months worth of child support. I get it. But we got to make sure that the guys that we're bringing in are doing that, are taking care of their responsibilities as men. Because if they're not following the law, right, and then they're required, and there's much more severe penalties for not following common law, what do you think they're going to do when if they follow Masonic law, right? I mean, the best that we can do is just kind of expel them and say, well, you're no longer a Mason. I mean, there's no real detrimental effect other than just the honor and the shame that every good man should feel. But, if he's kind of telling the cops to go pound sand, guess what he's going to tell the worshipful master? You can go pound sand too. Is that the thing that you want in your lodge? I say no, not at all. So just keep that in mind. Check their social media. Now, if on the investigation committee, and this is where the brother really had a problem. I know I'm wrapping it back up. It's been 10 minutes and I've been talking stupid. If that brother doesn't fit, it's your responsibility as a Mason to protect your lodge. It is not to protect the feelings of a potential candidate, right? Your duty is to your brothers, not to someone who's not a brother. And always keep that in mind, please. You must weigh completely and totally whether or not you want him beside you in lodge. You want to weigh whether or not you feel that he's trustworthy to be with your family. You must weigh whether or not he's going to live that good life. And if the answer is no, it is your duty as a Master Mason to protect your lodge and say no. And do not feel bad about that. And that's where this brother kind of had a little bit of heartache in there, right? He had a couple of guys that he didn't feel were necessarily good candidates, and he's a very nice guy, love him to death, and he felt kind of a heartache because he was being empathetic. He wanted to become a Freemason, and he would have felt devastated if he had been denied membership. So he doesn't feel good saying no. And I looked at him and I said, you must understand that your responsibility is to the lodge. If that means that the answer is no, that means the answer is no, and you can put your head on the pillow at night knowing that you've done well. In fact, you'll feel a lot more grief if the answer is no, but you say yes because you want to be empathetic. And that's the truth, right? You're going to stop problems before they even begin rather than trying to fix problems after they've already started. It's a whole lot harder to do that. Now, the last part I wanted to say was, I'm going to have to edit this part out. That's what I was going to say. Please remember that on an investigation committee, you're not really saying yes or no to them. Their actions are saying yes or no, and you just simply happen to be recording it. Now, I, for instance, as a teacher, am getting ready to be right around marking period time. And I will have my students come up to me and say, why did you give me a C? And I'll look solidly at them and said, I didn't give you a C. You earned a C. I just recorded it. And they really don't like me when I say that, but it's really the truth. We all know in this course, for instance, that I teach, what you need to do in order to earn an A. It's very clear, it's very explicit, lines everything out. This is what it is. Now, whether or not you take the time to do all of that is whether or not you earn the A. Same thing with when you're becoming a Freemason or you're going to an investigation for a potential candidate, right? They know what they should be doing to live a good and honorable life. If they're not doing that, you're just merely recording that and telling that to the lodge. It's not you giving them the black ball, but it's them. You're just the person through whom it's being communicated. So when you put your head on the pillow at night, if that investigation committee isn't necessarily in favor of that potential candidate becoming a member, realize it's not you, it's them. It really is. We as Freemasons don't ask for a terrible amount when it comes to being a good man and true, right? You don't lie, you don't cheat, you don't steal, you don't break the law, you keep your hands to yourself, all that other good stuff. And for the most part, those guys can become Masons. It's that when you don't lie, cheat, steal, keep your hands to yourself, and whatever else it is that I said, that you're not living the life that we want. And you all know that if you lie, cheat, steal, don't keep your hands to yourself, blah, 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 that it's not a good life. Like that's not a shocker to people, right? We know that inherently any of those are all bad things, and you don't need to have someone come out and go, well, you did this, so that's why. No, you already know. You already know. Just like when people come to me and they say, my grade is this, and they go, what can I do? And I'm like, well, you know what you could have done. You just didn't do it. And that's why you have the C. So please keep that in mind. Guarding the West Gate is by far the most important thing, other than your Masonic voting, for any member in a lodge to do. You are selected by the Worshipful Master for reasons that he has, and hopefully those reasons are because you share a similar experience. Maybe he sees some potential in you and he wants to see you become an officer, maybe move up through the chairs and help you ascend to the east. There could be a number of reasons, but he chose you for that reason because he trusts you. He puts you there to give back your honest feedback. He trusts you to do the work so that you help protect the West Gate. So, until next time, guys, stay fervent.